Okay, we're going to do a code review for K2. So the reason I'm doing this is so if ever you do start to do development or start to use K2 in the future, you kind of know what to expect, and you can see that I try to keep everybody informed as to what I'm doing. At this point, the project is probably, to be realistic, a year away from it being stable enough for people to use. There's a lot of work to do, and that'll all depend on my work schedule and how busy I stay at work. But I just want to go through what I've changed and why I've changed it. Let's just start. Google Charts added a little bit of a test file there. Or did I add a file or added the test file to run during the install? Google Charts made changes. Yeah, we've done things like the ability to pass a URL in so that your charts are now clickable, and you can just pass a URL. It just wraps the divs that it creates in an href. And yeah, added URL as a parameter now, optional parameter. Did some cleanup on the naming. So like create group, we changed that to create alert priority group. It was, the reason we're doing this is, although I really kind of hate long names, when you're trying to find things and in your IDE, it's a lot better to have clear names like that. And so instead of create group, create alert priority group. Create group is too generic and will be used across multiple modules. So it's just better naming. On the alert package body, a lot of renaming. Don't see much else there. Don't think there's a lot else there. And the alert schema. Yeah, mostly just renaming there. Renaming there. Okay, let's move to contacts. Since alerts and contacts are kind of related, we've got some renames there from alerting, and we also renamed contact group. So instead of create group, create contact group. We've added, I'll show you on the schema side, but you see this contact group alt ID. So you may have a contact group that is associated with something like, in my case, a data set. So a data set gets a contact group. And so in my application, when the data set code is getting created, when a data set is getting created, it automatically creates a contact group. So now I need to store a reference. I should store a reference for that data set to know that it's associated with the contact group. So I could create my own table for that, or I could store it and store that there, or store it in my data set table if it's a one-to-one relationship. But I didn't want to do that. I can see a need that what I want to do is just look out in the contacts and know that I've got this alternate ID, and that happens to be my data set ID in this case. So this is an optional ID. You can kind of pass in a number ID and know what that contact is associated with in theory. So I've done that across a number of these modules. I'm starting to add that alt ID. Let's look at that. So just renames. And in the schema, yeah, mainly you can see I've added this contact group alt ID. Metrics was broken because the stat key wasn't getting passed in. Not really using much of this at the moment. I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with that. It was just collecting some basic K2 metrics, basically, is the idea, so that you'll have metrics about K2 built in. I like the idea, but I haven't got around to doing much with it. More of a placeholder at this point. So the schema, we've added nav menu. So now I'm doing these dynamic menus. There's a nav menu view, and I've shot a video on that, but you can basically just create a list, do a select from this where your nav menu key equals, well, you have to call it attribute 1, where attribute 1, which is your nav menu key, and then you create that, and then you can create menus off of it. And it does, like, it activates yes, no. If page alias matches, I'm using page alias. This could be enhanced to handle page number also. Page number is handled up here if you provide it. And you basically just do inserts into this and create menus, and then you can just use those menus. So just a way to create some easy dynamic menus that are table driven. And stat, we've done a lot with stat. We've added a stat bucket alt ID, and so we have this alt ID that I can pass in my case, a dataset ID to that. You know that the bucket belongs to this dataset. It's a little better than relying on how you name things and stuff like that. Just going to see if there's any major changes. We do have a generate test data. I needed that, so this will generate some generic test data for a bucket. Just creates the stats and then creates some data for them. If you ever have a question on how to do something, just ask me and I will likely shoot a video for you if you actually want to play with this. Like I said, I don't expect too many people to be using this for a long time because I'm building applications now which are driving a lot of the changes that you're seeing here, and there's still a lot to come because every day I find stuff I need to get improved. Okay, stat schema, yeah. Moved the stat profile block just because I was adding some constraints, I think, or they weren't in the right order or something. Some foreign key constraints needed to be, the dependencies needed to, one table needed to be built before another. Stat test. So I have wrote a little bit of a test file here. You can kind of see how that works. And that was because I'm working on cleanup, because not everything, it's a little convoluted on cleanup, and I want to make sure things are getting cleaned up, or we're moving in a better direction there. Token, added expiration to tokens. So, added an alt ID to the token, so you can pass in an alt ID for the token because each data set gets a token. It could have more than one token, so we can pass the data set ID in when we create the token, and then if we delete a data set, I know what tokens need to be deleted or associated with that data set. A little more easily, queries, things like that. Don't know what that was, just something, and added a delete block. So a lot of times I just want to wipe everything out, and if you've seen before, I was using kind of a variable here in the app.dev package, got rid of the app.dev package. We're just using 1 equals 0 or 1 equals 1. The only time you would see this in my code is like in a SQL statement. Maybe I would be forcing something to be true. So if I search for those, I'm probably going to just find, and I can use a regex to find these really quickly if I want to. So if I want to come up here, across every app, this is every app that I have, and all the library, I can just do a find in folder, and I can just do 1 equals 0, and you can see it's mostly app schema files. So pretty easy to find these and go and modify them or find out where you have modified them. So like on my, say for example on the contact schema, if I want things to drop while I'm rebuilding, when I'm reinstalling, I just set that to 1 equals 1, and I come up, search for 1 equals 1, and I can disable that pretty quickly. Okay, so that is the set of changes that are going into the February 8th branch, and that's the update for now. If you're interested in K2, it's on, is it on GitLab, or it's on Git? It's on GitLab, I think, GitLab. But builtonapex.com/K2 will get you there. Thank you.